I think like what okay, so like one thing that I'll do when I come in on like to work on like a product. I'll give you an example. Like we started talking about a month ago about how hey, we'd like to do some more stuff to address like disruptive behavior in the game. There's a kind of a moment where especially I think really Voyboy did kick it off where uh, he kind of raised the fact that it's still a problem that Riot should be looking into more, right? And I think a lot of Rioters looked at that and said, it's not like this was news to us, right? Like we know that it's an ongoing it's a 10-year-old game, right? And it's always been one of the challenges. Um, but I think there was an increased interest in like, well, what can we do? Let's take a like fresh eyes. Let's take a fresh approach to this old problem. And so one of the things that I do is like I come in and I'm just the comms guy on the team, right? The product people are figuring out like what are some like are there some of these things that are like sacred cows that we could look at differently? Like for instance, for a long time we've said that we don't um we we really feel like we've reached our limit in terms of what we can do to stop inters because the risk is if you tune up your int detection algorithms too high, then what you'll start doing is start banning people who just had a bad game, right? Like that's a guaranteed thing. It's not there's nobody with any technology that could figure out a way to avoid that, right? Where you're just especially automatically, right? Like cuz we are talking about automatic solutions. If we had enough money to hire yeah, I mean, it would be like an entire country of player support people to manually just ban people who are griefing in game and review all the games, right? So we've always said, we want to find like automatic solutions to the stuff, but we're scared of going too hard and accidentally getting some people who are just having a bad game. So the product people now are saying, well, what if we just try some stuff, right? What if we try tuning it up a little more aggressively, experiment with it, and try it out? So then they go, how do we tell that to players? Because they're nervous, right? They're like, we don't want to, we want this to come across right. Because what we're saying is we're willing to experiment and try something a little more aggressive than we have in the past. And so what I'll do for them is say, here's what I think it would look like if you wanted to message that to players. And I'll sometimes I'll just write a draft from scratch. When I'm working with Andre, he's really good. So a lot of times he'll go, here's my draft. Well, Rigney, give me your notes on it. And that works great. Like that's fine. I think a lot of times devs like the devs at least at Riot really really care about not only doing the right thing for the game but they want to be understood, right? I mean, which is like a pretty basic human emotion. So when they're thinking about what they're going to do, I always see them thinking through how will I then say that, and I try to just make that part less worrisome where I go, well, here's one way to say it and show them a draft, right? And then they go, oh, that seems fine. Like I thought it would be horrible because they worry about how are things going to come across. Um, so that's actually a really specific example of something recently, which I don't even remember what your question was, but I think my
No, no, it's
No,
perfectly
no, it's
fine. This happens every
yeah.
single episode. The questions are more of just like a how do we start the conversation flowing
Yeah.
yeah
and keep it from being just like
Yeah, yeah.
robot. Like how do you do this?
yeah
How
yeah
do you do that?
Yeah, yeah.
There's no problem getting off topic or anything like that.